Are you watching the NASA stream?
I'm on the SpaceX stream, and I think we're live. Hello, everybody. It's
Hello?
liftoff time, or is it? Um, they're having some weather issues still that they figured they would clear that haven't cleared yet. We are. It's Jason and Steven, and we're from the Liftoff podcast. And thank you for
Yes,
watching with
hello.
us.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, there's an issue about the amount of rain they can experience while loading propellant. It seems like the range issues that were a concern yesterday and earlier today have cleared. It's just a matter of the cell that's coming through now, how much rain is going to get dumped on the launch site between now and 31 minutes from now.
Yeah, the rules are funny because what they want to do is have uh, all these safety rules that are set up, but a lot of it is not something you can see. So,
Yeah,
like, I was there at the shuttle launch. I did not go on it. I was not on it, but I was at the shuttle launch and the last one, and it was cloudy. And in fact, the launch happened, but the shuttle shot up through the clouds and was gone. So cloud cover isn't the issue, but yeah, there's all these detailed issues: the weather over the North Atlantic for aborts, the precipitation while they're doing the super cold fuel load. Just so many different things that they have to tick off. Plus, that yeah, you also don't want like a thunderstorm in the vicinity.
yeah. You don't want an Apollo 12 situation.
No. Oh, so we're doing this live stream. It's very fun. I get to do things
Yes.
like this. I'm going to move us to a picture in picture. Now you can see the video of that's from the YouTube stream, the
Yep.
live stream that is not our YouTube stream, but a totally the official one. But they lack us. They have a major lack of us.
That's true. We just crossed into 29 minutes, 45 seconds or so. It'll be here before we know it.
Yeah, viewers on the stream will see that I've got a little countdown that is my timed countdown to the minute where the launch is supposed to happen.
Hmm.
Although it's now actually different from their launch because my live stream is a little bit behind. Maybe I should just I'm gonna take mine off since this is not one of those missions. This is okay. Let me explain this. This is an instantaneous launch window. A lot of times you'll see in launches they'll have like a clock and they start it and they stop it and they start it and they stop it because they can kind of go any old time. But because this mission they're syncing up with the International Space Station, they have this instantaneous launch window, which means there is 1 second, 1 microsecond when they must launch. And if they don't hit that time, the jig
That's
is
it.
up and it's all over,
Yep.
and they have to wait until the weekend.
Hmm.
And there are a couple instantaneous launch weekends. I was reading about this that the launch windows this weekend really suck if you are one of the astronauts because it goes from being like a 13-hour ride to the space station to being like a 30-hour ride to the space station.
Oh,
Yeah, they get a lot of time in that Crew Dragon if that happens.
just hanging out. I noticed there were some comments I saw earlier about that the interface in the Crew Dragon is very different from the shuttle or anything before it, which was, just banks of switches and toggles. And this is basically a bunch of iPad Pros taped together. But you'll notice that they have above and below it like plastic rubbery ledges. So you can put your hand on it so your finger is stable. I think we've all done this. Like maybe you're driving a car and you reach out to change something, like on the radio, and you go over a bump, and because your hand's at the end of a big lever, it does this. And so they've even thought about that sort of thing in this touch environment in the Crew Dragon, a place to anchor your hand before you can reach up and touch a control.
Yeah, I was thinking about because computer nerds. I was thinking about the touchscreen interface and the fact that they must have like capacitive gloves
Yeah, yeah.
because they can actually touch the screen through their gloves. And if you've tried to use like mittens on your iPhone, it does not
Hmm.
happen. So they thought of everything, including their little finger tray there, so that they can be stable while they're tapping on things. They also have some physical buttons. It's not all touch screens, so that's good. Hmm.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
A constraint on the field mill rule, which looks at lightning energy dissipation. We expect to have an update at about T minus 20 and more information there on whether we would be able to continue into the prop load or scrub at that time.
Okay, Jay, thanks for the update. We appreciate it.
Copy. So I'll give you some more words in about 6 minutes.
Okay. All right, so we got 6 minutes to hear about this one particular issue that they've got.
Tell me about this salmon-colored NASA worm shirt you're wearing.
I was excited and wanted to get a worm shirt, so I got a worm shirt. And
There you
as
go.
everybody knows, we have a debate about the worm versus the meatball, and I was very happy to see the return of the meatball. As a design-focused person, Stephen, I wonder what you think about the fact that apparently the worm is not in the style guide, and Bridenstine, the NASA administrator, basically said, I like the worm. We stuck it on a bunch of things. Like literally, the worm escaped from
Yeah, it
purgatory and got stuck
did.
on a bunch of things.
Came back. You know what? This is a really important mission. I think it's okay to mark the return of American crewed flight. I think it's okay.
My problem with it is more because I like the worm. I bought a worm shirt.
Yeah, you're a worm guy.
I grew up with the worm, but
Big worm energy.
thank you. I would like it to make sense just in the long run. Like if they're going to use both logos, they need to say why and when and how. And for this mission, it's like I don't know if you saw the shot of them walking across the gantry into the spacecraft, but somebody got some big plastic worm letters and stuck those up there. And it's like we randomly put the worm logo here. Why?
Yeah.
I don't know. Nobody knows. So
yeah, it seems a little cavalier maybe, and I think Bridenstine said, hey, this is a thing for this mission. I could see a world where they use the worm with crewed missions and the meatball is sort of the overall brand and what you see on uncrewed missions. But yeah, if they use both, they got to be clear.
Yeah, I mean that again. I think having the two logos is something you could get away with, but they have to mean something, and I don't know what they mean now, other than that like the worm was cool and let's bring it back.
Right.
So sure, all right, I like it. It's great.
I mean, yeah.
Yep. So I don't know. So we talked about this mission and we talked about the astronauts. They're both veterans. They're both test pilots. This is a test mission. This is like the purest of test missions. The first time a spacecraft is flown with people in it.
Yeah.
And they're both space shuttle veterans. And in fact, Doug Hurley was on STS-135, the last shuttle mission. He was the commander, so he was in the left-hand, I want to say, seat. And I was there for that one. That was pretty awesome. So he gets to be on the last shuttle mission and the first commercial crew mission, which I love.
Yeah, I think that's cool. And yeah, this is a test flight in, like you said, the most basic sense of the word. The hardware has been tested and used for a bunch of different things. They had the uncrewed run, several months ago, but it is different when you put people in the cabin. What I think is going to be interesting about this mission is how people think or talk about like the relationship between NASA and SpaceX. Like I've had people just in my life like, oh, SpaceX is putting astronauts into orbit, right? Or someone asked if they're going to the moon or not. But SpaceX is doing this, and yes, that's true. But remember the idea of commercial crew was that hey, the shuttle is ending. You referenced STS-135 in 2011, the last shuttle mission, and the plan was, okay, we're going to let commercial companies, so there's SpaceX, but there's also ULA and the Boeing Starliner, which will do another crewless demo flight later this year. This is going to be the way that we service the International Space Station. And the idea is that NASA could focus on the SLS and Orion for the moon and beyond, including Mars. And it has taken a lot longer to play out than I think anyone wanted, but that they've basically stuck to that recipe, right? The SLS isn't foregoing to the International Space Station. That's what these smaller commercial launches are for. And when it's time to go to the moon in 2024,
yes,
or whenever, it'll be aboard SLS. And there may be commercial launches to bring supplies or other hardware, but the crews will be aboard the SLS. So really that framework set out, which really was set out before STS-135 launched, is now kind of coming to fruition today. In fact, I think you told me at the STS-135 launch, there was like a Crew Dragon example, right?
Yeah, they had samples of Constellation, and they had a Crew Dragon mock-up, and I mean, obviously the contractors were talking about this in 2011, and NASA really was egging them on, saying, this isn't the end of human spaceflight in the U.S. We just had this plan. We'll be up and running by in like 5 years, I think they said. And it's like, okay, it's 9 years, but they were talking about it then. The plans were already there. I mean, think about where SpaceX was at that point, though. In 2011, they were basically nowhere, had done very little, and but we've seen what they've done in the last 9 years to get to this point.
Oh yeah, I mean the Falcon 9 has really evolved itself, and of course they have Falcon Heavy and working on Starship and these other things. But yeah, they have really become a global player in the launch industry, right there with the likes of ULA and the likes of these other countries doing their own launches. SpaceX is right in the mix with them.
Yeah, this is. We're so used to talking about it, and I think that a lot of people who don't follow space closely are going to kind of get that. But it's really a remarkable moment, assuming that this happens today, whenever it does happen. This is a private company putting people in space. It is with the money of the U.S. There was a report out in the last week about basically somebody wanted to do an analysis of how much money the U.S. has spent on SpaceX and Boeing for commercial crew, and how much it would have cost to build the shuttle replacement for low Earth orbit if they didn't do commercial crew. And what this story said was it's something like 1/8, 1/6 the amount of money they would have spent on building their own thing, and they have 2 different companies building these things. So it is really remarkable to think of a private company building a spacecraft and sending people into orbit. But on the same level, you got to admit that whoever started NASA down the path of commercial crew, that was a good decision. It just financially alone to let private businesses kind of work with NASA to build these things and innovate in a bunch of ways. And we see with the Space Launch System that when you're building it into the old kind of NASA contractor model, it's a lot slower and a lot more expensive. And I know that rocket is doing something different, but still, it fits the narrative for sure. Looks like they're not going to make it.
2 minutes, and then I'll call it up at about T-minus 17 minutes.
That's what's coming over.
Yeah, there's some of them are starting to count down, but we still have one above 2,000. So if that gets below,
there's a lot of skepticism that I'm hearing now on the loop, that there's one that they just don't think is going to go, and it seems to be the case where they're just going to play it until the moment where they have to call it, because you never know what might happen. But that did not sound great. No. So, yeah, I don't think we're going to get there with any of the rules today. We're not going to quite going to do it. So they're going to check back in a couple of minutes, but it's not looking good. That's too bad.
Yeah. You got to do it safely.
Well, and you got to launch in Florida because you got to be, closer to the equator and on the ocean so that you're not raining rocket parts down on everyone.
#China.
But it is Florida, and it's tropical, and there's weather. And
it was really surprising to me when I was there in 2015. I was there over the summer for a SpaceX launch, and just how quickly these big thunderstorms will just appear out of nowhere.
It's amazing.
T-minus 18 minutes and counting. We are still red on weather.
Expect an update from LD.
We're waiting about another
It's like I said, my shuttle launch, the weather, we got a 20% chance of launching the morning of the launch. And it's so variable that you don't know when you push it to the limit, but it sure looks to me like they can't envision this one particular red marker turning green.
Yeah.
By the time it has to turn green for them to launch. And again, instantaneous launch window, right? Like they can't wait 5 minutes and then shoot it off. Even if it clears in 10 minutes, it's too late. They got to do it right at 4:33, I think, or they can't do it.
We're not going to have the opportunity to launch if the clock's going to run out. Stand by.
Continue to violate a couple different weather rules that we now do not expect to clear in time to allow for a launch today. We go ahead and
that's it.
Launch attempt, launch control.
Yep.
Go ahead and end the launch auto sequence and proceed into the launch abort auto sequence.
Back to your quarantine, gentlemen.
So the next launch attempt is Saturday. That instantaneous window is 3:22 p.m. Eastern.
Yep.
So we'll try this again this weekend.
Womp womp. All right. Yeah, we'll do it again.
Yeah,
But
we'll be back.
This is space. This is how it happens. I think I had 2 or 3 extra days of slop time in my shuttle launch just in case, because you never know, and just in case it didn't hit day 1, that they had a few more days to do it, and I got it off on day 1, and it was great because then I was done. But it frequently doesn't happen that way, and when you have an instantaneous window, there's no room for error. So, oh well.
Yep.
Well, we did a live stream.
We did. It's like a practice for Saturday.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna have to abort the live stream, Jason. So if you want to look at your procedures, your policies, and make sure that you're ready to
all right.
exit the spacecraft
I got to click
safely.
a bunch of buttons up here.
Yeah.
And then return to my quarantine, I guess.
Okay.
Which I really feel like I never left, but and I hope people like this.
Yeah. Let us know.
And we'll try it again. And I was using new streaming software, which I think worked okay, although I'm learning things about that, but that's part of the fun of this from the computer nerd side. Mm-hmm. And so the launch is scrubbed, alas, and we will be back with you this weekend, probably here, but watch the Liftoff Twitter and Tumblr and the Relay FM Discord if you're a member, and we'll do that when we're back the next time.
All right.
Worm out.
Bye.